Hours have gone by with nothing. I've typed the same stuff over and over, which is getting me nowhere. It's time to get something done. Smith, before I go further with this, I want to establish how much I hate you. Although, in a sense, I'm proud of you. This trap is rather elaborate, and even uses my own idea against me. You've thought around every corner to ensure my suicidal demise in the end, and for that, I commend you. How long you'll go on is lost to me. I'm not sure how, but perhaps this log will be recovered, and someone else will want to dent your face in. You may have gone years without being caught, but you won't continue much longer. Not like this. I'll try to be sure of it. Now, with my personal message out of the way, I'm not sure where to begin. I have what feels to be all the time in the world, yet that's not something I can be sure of. For some time, I've been oblivious to the loss of blood from my wrist. It wasn't apparent until the pain began to set in, but it's been slow. I'm hoping that I can at least keep alive until this is finished, wherever it may be going. I apologize for any blatant typos or unfixed errors. A perfect paper isn't the highest objective at the moment. I'll start by talking about him, I suppose. Smith. We worked for a time, but we never shared a friendship. Our relationship was strictly business. We never met outside of our work, and we left much of our personal lives undisclosed. Knowing of his past could have surely prevented this. At least, this outcome. I worked at Massachusetts General Hospital, by the way. My occupation is a general researcher, but I had a bit of a side interest, which Smith apparently shared. As I delved into the medical research field, I began a fascination with technological enhancements. It was more of a fantasy to me, a strange world that I dreamed of and sketched throughout the day. For Smith, it was essential, to say the least. It was his pursuit. His obsession. The first day Smith confronted me while I was on break. At the time, I believed he was actually working for Mass General. However he sneaks about, he must be good at it. Smith was drawn in by a sketch of mine. It was an undeveloped, spur-of-the-moment idea. A wrist device similar to a watch that could regulate areas of the body by injecting various chemicals into the bloodstream. In theory, it could adjust body heat, maintain blood sugar levels, keep its user alert and awake, or vice versa. It was another fantasy to me, as I would never have the time or resources to construct such a piece. But Smith, on the other hand, saw potential in it. Him and I chatted for a while about our similar views on the concept. It's hard for me to say this now, but at the time, I found him to be quite an engaging man to speak with. His insights into this world of technology were beyond any that I had heard. He's the only individual I've ever spoken to who looks at tech enhancements as a real use and possibility. From that day, we scheduled various dates in which we worked on the prototype device. Smith was rather paranoid of ideas being stolen, so we kept our location and progress quiet from the other researchers. We worked at his apartment, which was secluded enough. Throughout the project, Smith never stopped encouraging me, if encouraging would be an appropriate word. It appeared to be the only matter he focused on. Annoyed that I didn't feel the same. Yes, I thought the project had potential, but I still had to keep a job, at the very least. This frustrated him for sure. It was clear that Smith knew far more on the subject than myself. He constantly spoke about how he worked with tech for years. After only a week's worth of collaborating, I wanted out, but was unsure of how to go about telling him. After all, he grew angry if I even questioned him. Abandoning him wouldn't be much more promising. Damn. The pain's worse now, for sure. Maybe the wound's worse than I thought. I'll state that I had one major interest outside of tech enhancements. Over the years, I've developed an interest for writing. When I think about it, my interest in the latter came from my writing, as the ideas started out just as story notes. I've never explained this to Smith, for reasons that I hope I've made apparent. Naturally, the project with Smith had taken up most of all my time outside of work. Smith practically forced me to meet with him whenever I could. If I began to refuse, he would interrogate me, asking me about my life, what I could possibly be doing in place of our progress. I'll admit, he frightened me. I'm not sure what exactly about him was unsettling, but he seemed capable of pushing to the end, meeting his goals at whatever cost. I'll leave out the time in between, but before I left the project, we had made progress. Though we still were nowhere close to finishing the prototype device, we had made much ground in settling its basic functions. The only reason I stayed was because of the device itself, that my fantasy sketch might have just become a real working tool. Then, all our progress was shattered. Unsurprisingly, Smith grew impatient. Despite our progress, he wasn't yet satisfied. He wanted the device fully operational right away. He began to tamper with the delicate piece. His hands were shaking, jolting with various screws and micro-sized vials. He began screwing with the device's code, ultimately erasing hours of work and rendering the technology near useless. He blamed me for our failure, of course. I tried to argue how it was his own fault, but this only sent him off more. "What have you fucking done?" he screamed. "You've never cared about this from the start, have you? This was just some fucking drawing that you made, that I wanted to see for real. This is the stuff I live for. I've done this before. I've created my own inventions and tested them. What have you done?" He grew violent, making threats and throwing objects about. Needless to say, I didn't want any part of him anymore. I left on the spot. I continued with my regular job and found peace of mind again. Smith's threats continued to echo in memory, as they were too sinister to be passed off. 4 days after I abandoned the project, I was approached by 2 men. Where they came from, I didn't know, but they were investigators. They asked if I'd seen Smith, as they'd been tracking him for a long time. I told them a bit of what I knew, and what followed was a long, tedious interrogation. Eventually, when they knew they'd been told everything, they told me the truth about Smith. Smith Alexander wasn't lying when he said he'd done this before. Despite meeting me in the hospital and describing his job, he never worked there in his life. He's never worked in any hospital or any medical or scientific profession. He slid and faked his way about the system for years, with almost no one catching on. As unsettling as it is for an impersonator to be creeping his way about a medical facility, it was his reasons for being there that set me off. He was looking for live subjects, injured individuals for him to test his designs. He scanned businesses, schools, and public areas to find a wide array of experimental material. In short, he used people as human test subjects. What he did with his captives ranged from lethal to vomit-inducing. The investigators told me some reports, as well as showed me some photos. He loved to tamper with the heart, resulting with some of his less brutal murders. However, his psychotic designs had no limits. Some of the photos showed a man with both his arms sawed off, with metal rods replacing the limbs. Another photo showed a woman with her back filleted open, syringes lining her spine, which had turned a sickly black color. He didn't discriminate when it came to his victims. I stopped looking at the photos when they started including children. I'm getting drowsy now. Damn. I should at least get to my own predicament before I end. Last night, I was working on a novel of mine, right inside my apartment. It was still unfinished, but I was closing in on its conclusion. Despite the confidence, a lack of rest got the better of me, and I drifted into a sleep right at my desk. I just realized that I may have been knocked out by the water I was drinking at my desk. It had an interesting taste to it, but my focus was devoted to writing. Smith must have slipped in there before and drugged the glass. I need to keep on subject. I awoke this morning right in my apartment at my desk. The computer screen blared in front of my eyes, which showed a blank page. My ears were greeted with 2 words. Start typing. A cold, narrow shaft bumped against my head. The voice was familiar, but given that I woke up seconds before, my mind was still dazed and unfocused. Start typing, damn it! The voice shouted, with the cold surface being pressed against me. The voice was Smith, and he was holding a pistol to my skull. Smith, I said, beginning to wake. What the hell are type, or your face will be smeared on the monitor? I listened, despite my confusion. Slew of letters appeared on the screen as I was only complying for my life. There, he said. This is what you wanted, correct? You wanted to write. I knew it was your hobby. I've seen your work like this numerous times. Now that you're out of the project, you have all the time in the world to write. Smith reached over my shoulder, towards my right arm. He pressed a small button on the watch, which was secured to my wrist. I hadn't noticed it until he reached for it. Don't stop typing now, he said. I'll explain your situation. That's it, by the way. Your design, I made it possible, all without your help. It's a prototype, as it only has one feature. It's connected to the keyboard that you're using now. More importantly, its needle is connected to your bloodstream. Fiddle with it, or stop typing for more than 10 seconds, then it will send a small dose of lethal poison into your system. Your heart, along with everything else, will die in less than a minute. All you have to do to prevent that is just keep typing. Keep typing to your heart's desire. You're fucking crazy, I screamed. I smashed at the keyboard with my fist. Now, don't get too aggressive. If that keyboard breaks, then so do you. Before you get any clever exploits in mind, I've wired the keyboard to the watch in specific ways. Tricks such as weighing down the keys or holding one letter down won't work. Don't bother with trying to get up either. I've removed all the phones from this room, and there's no inhabited room nearby in the building. Help is unreachable unless you run out of this room. If you wish to attempt a suicidal escape, by all means, go ahead. You won't get away with this, you sick fuck. Someone will come for me eventually, and I'll tell them everything. Perhaps they will, but will you go on that long? I guess that's up for you to find out. Now please, continue to write. I won't distract you any longer. Enjoy your session, David. And with that, the bastard walked out. If I had to guess, he still hasn't been caught. It was about 6 hours ago, if I've been keeping track of time right. He's right when he said there's no way out of this. I've been here continuously writing and deleting the same stuff, trying to think of a plan. He's left every crack sealed, as far as escaping goes. Despite his warning, I actually did try screaming for help earlier, and no one's shown since then. After hours of useless plans, I knew the best and only course of action would be to write my own final chronicle. I've explained a story and the trap, and so I suppose the only part left is the warning. Damn it, my wrist is killing me. The pains moved up towards my shoulder. It's hard to lift my right finger, let alone my arm. Smith's rushed most of his prototypes, and this one was no exception. Even if I keep going, I'm sure I'll die from blood loss soon. Over the course of typing this, I found the best loophole available. The computer's locked on this text program, but I can still send out the document directly from it. I'm going to think of every address I can remember, even ones of those I don't know personally. My name is David Mallory. Smith Alexander is likely still out there, wherever he may be. He's probably skipped town right after trapping me here. He's very dangerous, to say the least. He uses random people as testing material in his terrible, rushed ideas. He's created devices to kill, like the one clasped to my wrist right now. I don't know what his end goal is, but he's had no problem murdering so far. End goal? That needs to be said. He must be stopped. Despite Smith's impatience, arrogance, and outright insanity, he has a plan. Over the course of working with him, he's made hints to something bigger, more significant than his regular, brutal enhancements. He's talked about how he plans to bless society with a grand technology, a modification that would be to all for all. He even talked about how he would sneak it into circulation. Whether it's a virus, nano-sized tech, a fucked up drug, I don't know, but whatever twisted version it is, Smith's capable of it. He's been capable of all the violence he's committed so far, and he's a danger to anyone at this point. If he's got away with his crime so far, what's to stop him now? That's it for me. I've gotten out all I can in this little time. Fuck you, Smith. The pain's moving towards my chest now, my heart. I guess this watch didn't work so well as Smith thought. By the time I put in the addresses and send this out, I'll be close to keeling over. I'll just let the poison take me then. Should be less painful, I hope. Forget about me, my life. Remember Smith. Remember his atrocities that I've detailed. And that he's still out there. And he's still working.